The return. The orbital defense stations around Earth screamed their warnings into the void as massive shapes materialized at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Chen Zhang pressed her palm against the cold metal of the observation deck's railing, watching the tactical display with growing dread. Hundreds of alien vessels, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly blue-green luminescence, hung in perfect formation like predators circling wounded prey. "Ma'am, they're not responding to any of our hail attempts." Lieutenant Morrison's voice cracked slightly as he spoke. The young officer had never seen an alien fleet before, let alone one this size. "Should we prepare for engagement?" Chen's weathered face remained stoic, but inside, her mind raced through calculations. The last time humanity had faced the Zephyrians, Earth had barely survived. That was 10 years ago, when Captain Marcus Reed had led a desperate mission behind enemy lines. Reed never came back. Neither did his entire squadron. "Hold position," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had seen too many battles. "Something's not right here. If they wanted to attack, they would have done so already." The silence on the bridge was deafening. Every crew member held their breath as the alien armada continued its slow approach toward Earth's outer perimeter. The ships were unlike anything in the databases, sleeker, more advanced than the brutish Zephyrian destroyers they remembered from the war. Suddenly, the communications array burst to life with an incoming transmission. The signal was strong, clear, and impossibly, it was broadcasting on human frequencies. "Earth Command, this is—" The voice paused, as if the speaker was struggling with words they hadn't used in years. "This is Captain Marcus Reed, requesting permission to approach." The bridge erupted in shocked murmurs. Chen felt her knees nearly buckle. Marcus Reed had been declared dead 5 years ago after no word from him or his team. His memorial statue stood in the Hall of Heroes, bearing the inscription, "Lost in service to humanity." "That's impossible," whispered Dr. Sarah Martinez, the fleet's xenobiologist. "The Zephyrians don't take prisoners. They never have." Chen raised her hand for silence, then leaned toward the communications console. "Unknown vessel, please verify your identity. Provide authentication codes Omega 77. Another pause. Then Reed's voice came back. Steady and unmistakably human. "Authentication confirmed. Admiral, I know this seems impossible, but I need to speak with Earth's leadership immediately. I'm bringing friends and we don't have much time." Friends. Chen looked out at the massive alien fleet again, her mind struggling to process what she was hearing. If that really was Marcus Reed out there, then somehow, impossibly, he had not only survived 10 years in alien territory, but had apparently allied himself with an entire species. "Sir," Lieutenant Morrison interrupted her thoughts, "long-range sensors are detecting massive Zephyrian fleet movements in the Proxima sector. They're mobilizing everything they have." Chen felt ice form in her stomach. The Zephyrians had spent the last decade rebuilding after their defeat, growing stronger, more ruthless. Intelligence reports suggested they were planning something big, but Earth's defenses were still recovering from the last war. "Captain Reed," she said into the comm, making a decision that could either save humanity or doom it. "You have permission to approach, but any hostile action from your fleet will be met with immediate retaliation." "Understood, Admiral. Thank you." As the alien vessels began moving toward Earth, Chen noticed something remarkable. The formation they flew wasn't random. It was a protective escort pattern around a single, smaller ship in the center. A ship that, according to her sensors, was broadcasting human life signs. The journey to Earth's orbital stations took 6 hours. During that time, Chen had contacted every major leader on the planet. The President, the United Nations Security Council, the heads of the military branches, everyone was demanding answers she didn't have. When the escort fleet finally reached Earth's outer defenses, the smaller ship in the center detached from the formation and approached the primary space station. It was sleek, obviously alien in design, but it bore markings that made Chen's heart race. On its hull, painted in faded white letters, were the words, USS Defiance, Earth United Fleet. The Defiance had been Marcus Reed's ship. The docking procedure was tense. Every weapon system on the station remained trained on the alien vessel, ready to fire at the first sign of treachery. But as the airlock sealed and the ship's occupant prepared to disembark, Chen found herself holding her breath. The airlock hissed open, and a figure stepped through that made Chen question everything she thought she knew about the universe. It was Marcus Reed, but changed. His hair was longer, streaked with silver that hadn't been there before. His skin bore intricate tattoos that seemed to shift and shimmer in the station's artificial light. Most striking of all were his eyes. They held a depth of knowledge and pain that spoke of years spent in unimaginable circumstances. But he was unmistakably human, unmistakably alive. "Admiral Chen," Reed said, his voice carrying an accent that hadn't been there before, something musical, otherworldly. "Thank you for giving me a chance to explain." "Captain Reed," Chen replied, struggling to maintain her composure. "I have about 1,000 questions, but let's start with the obvious one. How are you alive? And why are you traveling with what appears to be an alien armada?" Reed's expression grew grave. "Because the Zephyrians are coming, Admiral. Not in months or years, in days. They've built a weapon that can crack planets, and Earth is their first target. The only reason I'm standing here is because I found allies willing to help us stop them." He gestured toward the viewports where the alien fleet waited patiently in formation. "The Keth Mori people took me in when I was captured. They've been fighting the Zephyrians for centuries. When they learned about Earth, about what humanity represents, they decided to make a stand." "What we represent?" Chen asked, confused. Reed smiled, and for a moment, he looked like the young captain she remembered. "Hope, Admiral. To the galaxy, humans represent something that's been missing for too long. The willingness to fight for others, even when it costs everything. The Keth Mori have been searching for allies like us for generations." Before Chen could respond, her communications officer interrupted. "Admiral, we're receiving multiple distress signals from our deep space monitoring stations. Massive energy signatures detected in hyperspace. Estimated arrival time at Earth, 72 hours. Reed's face darkened. "They're ahead of schedule. We need to move now." Chen looked between Reed and the display showing the approaching Zephyrian threat. Everything in her training told her to be cautious, to verify, to doubt. But something in Reed's eyes, some certainty born of years of struggle, convinced her. "What do you need from us, Captain?" "Integration protocols," Reed replied immediately. "My fleet commanders need to coordinate with Earth's defense systems. The Keth Mori have technology that can level the playing field, but only if we work together." Chen nodded slowly. "I'll arrange meetings with the Joint Chiefs. But Reed, what happened to you out there?" "Really?" Reed was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. "I learned that the universe is bigger than we imagined, Admiral, and that sometimes the enemy of your enemy becomes family." As alarms began blaring throughout the station, announcing the approach of the Zephyrian fleet, Chen realized that humanity was about to discover whether 10 years of captivity had made Marcus Reed their salvation or their doom. The alien ships in orbit waited silently, their weapons powered down but ready. Inside their hulls, thousands of Keth Mori warriors prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of two species. On Earth below, billions of humans looked up at the stars, unaware that their future hung in the balance between a man who had learned to call aliens family and an enemy that had spent a decade planning their extinction. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, and this time, they wouldn't fight alone. The Alliance. The war room beneath Geneva had never hosted aliens before. Admiral Chen watched as the massive Kethmori delegation filed through the reinforced doors, their towering forms moving with fluid grace despite their intimidating appearance. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with elongated limbs and skin that shifted between deep purple and silver depending on the light. Their faces were angular, almost crystalline, with large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Marcus Reed walked beside their leader, a being who had introduced herself as War Singer Velithara. The translator device around Reed's neck converted her harmonic speech patterns into English. But even through the technology, her words carried an otherworldly beauty. "Honored leaders of Earth," Velithara sang, her voice creating harmonies that seemed impossible from a single throat. "We come not as conquerors but as kindred spirits who have found in your champion the courage we had forgotten." President Harrison shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The man was a politician, not a soldier, and the concept of allying with aliens clearly disturbed him. "With all due respect, Warsinger, humanity has little reason to trust alien species. The Zephyrians nearly wiped us out." Reed stepped forward, his movement fluid in a way that reminded Chen of the Kethmori themselves. "Mr. President, I understand your skepticism. 10 years ago, I would have felt the same way. But I've lived among the Kethmori. I've seen their honor, their sacrifice. They saved my life when they had no reason to." "Tell us about your capture," General Morrison requested, his weathered face skeptical. "Our records show your ship was destroyed in the Kepler system. How did you survive?" Reed's expression grew distant, as if he was seeing events from long ago. "The mission was supposed to be reconnaissance only. We detected unusual Zephyrian activity in the outer rim and went to investigate. What we found was a construction site. They were building something massive, something that made their previous dreadnoughts look like toys." He paused, running a hand through his silver-streaked hair. "We tried to retreat, but they detected us. My ship was crippled. My crew—" Reed's voice caught. "My crew didn't make it. I was pulled from the wreckage by a Zephyrian salvage vessel." Warsinger Velithara's skin shifted to deeper shades of purple, a sign of sadness that Reed had taught Earth's diplomats to recognize. The Zephyrians intended to extract information through torture, but the Kethmori had been tracking that same vessel. We intercepted it before they could reach their interrogation facility. Dr. Martinez leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocols. "Why didn't you return to Earth immediately after your rescue?" "Because I was dying," Reed replied simply. "The Zephyrians had already begun their procedures. The Kethmori healing process is complex. It took months of treatment, during which I learned their language, their culture. By the time I was well enough to travel, I had discovered something that changed everything." He activated a holographic display at the center of the table. The image showed a massive space station, larger than anything humanity had ever built. Its surface was covered in weapon emplacements that dwarfed Earth's most powerful defenses. "This is the Void Render," Reed continued, his voice grim. "The Zephyrians have spent 10 years building it. It's not just a weapon, it's a planet killer. One shot can crack a world's core, turning entire civilizations to ash." The room fell silent. President Harrison's face had gone pale. "How do we know this intelligence is accurate?" Velithara sang a harmony that the translator rendered as bitter laughter. "Because they tested it on our homeworld, Leader Harrison. Kethmora Prime is now a field of asteroids and the screams of the dead." The weight of that statement settled over the room like a shroud. An entire planet, billions of lives, wiped from existence to test a weapon now pointed at Earth. "The Kethmori are refugees," Reed explained. "What you see in orbit represents the survivors of their entire species. They've been wandering the galaxy for 2 years, searching for allies, for anyone willing to stand against the Zephyrians. And they found us," General Morrison observed. "Why? What makes humanity special?" War Singer Velithara's skin brightened, shifting towards silver. Your champion showed us something we had lost, the willingness to sacrifice for others. In our language, there is a concept, Thel Nara. It means the fire that burns in the hearts of those who fight not for conquest, but for protection. Reed nodded. I saw it myself during my time with them. When the Zephyrians attacked a civilian transport, the Kethmori threw themselves into battle to save people they'd never met. They could have escaped, but they chose to fight. It reminded me of humanity at our best. Dr. Martinez pulled up her own datapad. Captain Reed, our medical scanners detected significant changes in your physiology. The tattoos on your skin appear to be more than decorative. Reed smiled, rolling up his sleeve to reveal intricate patterns that seemed to move beneath his skin. The Kethmori healing process involves bioenhancement. These markings aren't just tattoos, they're living symbiotes that enhance reflexes, strength, and mental capacity. It's how they've survived as warriors for so long. You allowed them to alter your body? President Harrison asked, horrified. I chose it, Reed corrected firmly. To fight alongside them, to truly understand their culture, I needed to become something more than human. The process is irreversible, but it's allowed me to serve as a bridge between our species. Admiral Chen had remained silent through most of the discussion, studying the tactical displays. Finally, she spoke. What's their military capability? Can they actually help us against the Void Render? Velithara's harmonics shifted to what the translator rendered as confident determination. Our ships are fewer than yours, but each vessel is crewed by warriors who have fought the Zephyrians for centuries. We know their tactics, their weaknesses. Most importantly, we have developed countermeasures for their planet-killing weapon. Countermeasures? General Morrison leaned forward eagerly. Reed activated another holographic display. The Kethmori discovered that the Void Render's targeting system relies on specific quantum signatures. With the right interference pattern, we can blind it long enough to mount an assault on its core. The process requires perfect coordination between our fleets, Velithara added. Human ships must create a specific formation, while Kethmori vessels generate harmonic disruption fields. Neither species can accomplish this alone. President Harrison looked around the table at his advisors. The weight of the decision was clear in his expression. If we agree to this alliance, what are you asking from us? Integration of our command structures, Reed replied immediately. Joint training exercises, shared technology, and most importantly, trust. The Zephyrians will arrive in less than 60 hours. We need every ship, every pilot, working together. There's something else, Velithara sang, her tone becoming solemn. The quantum interference required to disable the Void Render can only be generated by ships operating in close proximity to the weapon. It is, by your human terminology, a suicide mission. The room erupted in heated discussion. Admirals and generals argued over the feasibility of the plan, while politicians debated the wisdom of trusting alien allies. Through it all, Reed stood quietly beside Warsinger Velithara, his enhanced eyes watching each face carefully. Finally, Admiral Chen called for order. Captain Reed, I have one more question. After 10 years with the Kethmori, where do your loyalties lie? Reed met her gaze steadily. With both species, Admiral. I've seen what we can accomplish together. Humanity's determination combined with Kethmori wisdom and technology. We can not only defeat the Zephyrians, we can build something better than either species could achieve alone. President Harrison stood slowly. I need time to consider this. The integration of our forces, sharing our technology with aliens, it's not a decision I can make lightly. Time is a luxury we don't have, Reed said urgently. Every hour we delay gives the Zephyrians a better position for their attack. Warsinger Velithara stepped forward, her harmonics shifting to something the translator rendered as desperate hope. Leader Harrison, my people have lost everything to Zephyrian aggression. Your world represents the last chance to stop their expansion across the galaxy. We offer everything we have, our ships, our warriors, our lives, to protect your people as they protected mine. She gestured toward Reed. Your champion taught us that true strength comes from unity, from the willingness to trust those who are different. The Zephyrians believe that only the strong deserve to survive. We propose to show them that strength multiplied by compassion is the greatest force in the universe. President Harrison looked at the holographic display showing the approaching Zephyrian fleet, then at the alien warriors who had traveled across the galaxy to offer their aid. Admiral Chen, begin integration protocols immediately. General Morrison, I want our best pilots working with Keth Mori commanders within the hour. He turned to Reed and Velithera. God help us all, but we're going to trust each other. As alarms began sounding throughout the facility, announcing the final preparations for battle, Marcus Reed felt a surge of hope he hadn't experienced in years. Two species, thrown together by desperation and bound by mutual respect, were about to face extinction together. The real test would come when the shooting started. The final stand. The void between Jupiter and Mars had become a graveyard of twisted metal and crystallized plasma. Marcus Reed stood on the bridge of the hybrid command vessel Unity, watching as the combined human Keth Mori fleet formed their final defensive line. 48 hours of integration training had forged an unlikely but effective fighting force, but now they faced the ultimate test. Through the massive viewport, the void render dominated the star field like a mechanical moon. The station's surface crawled with weapons that could turn starships to vapor, but it was the primary cannon at its center that made Reed's enhanced blood run cold. The planet-killer weapon glowed with malevolent energy, its targeting arrays already locked onto Earth's blue marble, hanging vulnerably in the distance. Harmonic resonance at 92%, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim, one of the human officers who had adapted remarkably well to Keth Mori technology. Her console displayed a complex web of energy patterns that would have been impossible for unenhanced human senses to interpret. The quantum interference field is building, but we need another 6 minutes to reach full disruption. We don't have 6 minutes. Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the comm from the human flagship, Resolute. Zephyrian battle groups are breaking through sectors 7 and 9. They're trying to collapse our formation before we can blind the void render. Reed turned to war singer Velithera, who stood at the tactical station with her four-armed form interfacing directly with the ship's neural network. Her skin had shifted to the deep crimson that indicated battle readiness among her people. Can the harmonics hold? The pattern is fragile, she sang, her voice harmonizing with itself in ways that still amazed Reed after 10 years. If we lose more than 3 more ships, the resonance will collapse entirely. Through the tactical display, Reed watched as Zephyrian dreadnoughts pressed their attack with ruthless efficiency. The enemy ships were massive, brutally functional weapons platforms that compensated for their lack of elegance with overwhelming firepower. They had learned from their previous defeat at human hands, and now fought with coordinated precision that left no room for the desperate heroics that had saved Earth before. Captain Yamamoto, pull your squadron back, Reed called out as he saw 3 human destroyers diving toward a Zephyrian cruiser. You're breaking formation. Negative, Unity, came the reply from the lead destroyer. They're targeting the Keth Mori harmonic generator. If that ship goes down, this whole plan fails. Reed watched in helpless admiration as the human ships threw themselves between the Keth Mori vessel and the incoming fire. It was exactly the kind of selfless action that had convinced the alien refugees that humanity was worth saving, but it also threatened to doom them all. The lead destroyer, Bushido, took a direct hit from a Zephyrian plasma cannon and broke apart in a shower of debris, but her sacrifice bought the time needed for the harmonic generator to complete another resonance cycle. Quantum interference now at 96%, Lieutenant Kim reported, her voice tight with concentration. Almost there. Suddenly, the Unity's sensors screamed a warning. The Void Render's main weapon was charging, its targeting beam sweeping across space toward Earth. Reed felt his enhanced reflexes kick in as time seemed to slow around him. "All ships, emergency dispersal pattern," he commanded. "If that thing fires now, the shockwave alone will tear us apart." The combined fleet scattered like leaves before a hurricane, but even as they moved, Reed could see it was too late. The Void Render's primary cannon had reached full charge, and its targeting beam had locked onto Earth's coordinates. Then War Singer Velithara did something that defied every tactical manual ever written. Instead of fleeing with the rest of the fleet, she ordered her ship to accelerate directly toward the massive weapon platform. "Velithara, what are you doing?" Reed shouted. Her response came as a complex harmony that the translator struggled to render. "What your people taught mine, Reed who is family. Sometimes the needs of many outweigh the needs of few." Reed understood instantly. The Keth Mori ship was positioning itself to create a localized harmonic burst that would disrupt the Void Render's targeting at the cost of her own vessel. It was suicide, but it would give the fleet the opening they needed. "No," Reed said, his voice carrying an authority he hadn't known he possessed. "There's another way." His enhanced mind raced through calculations, processing variables at speeds that surprised even him. The biosymbiotes in his system were fully active now, turning him into something that was more than human but not quite Keth Mori, a bridge between species in the most literal sense. "Chen, I need every ship with a quantum core to form a resonance chain. Kim, prepare to transfer all harmonic control to my neural interface." "Sir, that much quantum energy will fry your nervous system," Kim protested. "Not with Keth Mori enhancements," Reed replied, already moving toward the ship's central neural interface. "I'm the only one here who can handle the integration." As Reed connected to the ship's systems, he felt his consciousness expand across the entire fleet. Human determination merged with Keth Mori wisdom, creating something that neither species had achieved alone. Every ship became an extension of his will, every weapon a part of his body. The Void Render fired. The planet-killing beam lanced out across space, powerful enough to shatter worlds. But instead of striking Earth, it met a wall of coordinated quantum interference generated by two species working in perfect harmony. The beam scattered harmlessly across the electromagnetic spectrum, its destructive power dissipated like light through a prism. But the effort came at a cost. Reed felt the neural feedback burning through his enhanced nervous system, threatening to tear his consciousness apart. Only his Keth Mori modifications kept him functional as he channeled energies that would have killed any normal human instantly. "Now!" he commanded through gritted teeth. "All ships concentrate fire on the Void Render's power core. We won't get another chance." The combined fleet turned toward the massive weapon platform with unprecedented coordination. Human ingenuity had identified the station's weak points, while Keth Mori precision guided their weapons to target those vulnerabilities with surgical accuracy. Quantum torpedoes and harmonic disruptors struck the Void Render simultaneously, creating cascading explosions that ripped through its massive hull. The station's death throes lit up space like a dying star, taking with it the dreams of Zephyrian galactic domination. As the explosions faded, Reed collapsed from the neural interface, his enhanced body pushed beyond its limits. War Singer Velithara caught him, her harmonics soft with concern and respect. "The victory is complete, Reed, who is family," she sang gently. "The Zephyrian fleet is retreating. Earth is safe." Reed managed a weak smile. "Not just Earth. The entire galaxy is safe now that the Void Render is destroyed." Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the comm. "All ships, this is Fleet Command. Stand down from battle stations. The enemy is in full retreat. But even as celebration began across the fleet, Reed knew this was just the beginning. The alliance forged in desperation had proven itself in battle, but the real work lay ahead, building a lasting peace between species that had never imagined they could trust each other. 3 days later, Reed stood on the observation deck of the new orbital station that would serve as the headquarters for the human Keth-Mori alliance. Through the viewports, he could see ships from both species working together to repair battle damage and begin joint patrols. President Harrison had arrived that morning to sign the formal alliance treaty, along with the surviving leaders of the Keth-Mori refugees. What had begun as a desperate gamble had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history: true cooperation between alien species. The integration process will take years, Dr. Martinez commented, joining Reed at the viewport. Our languages, our technologies, our cultures, everything will need to be adapted. Reed nodded, watching as a human repair crew worked alongside Keth-Mori engineers to restore a damaged destroyer. But we've proven it's possible. Humans and Keth-Mori fighting side by side, trusting each other with their lives. Warsinger Velith Ara approached, her skin now showing the pale gold that indicated contentment among her people. The younger ones adapt quickly. Already, some of our children sing in harmonies that incorporate human musical concepts, and some of our pilots are requesting Keth-Mori bio-enhancements, Reed added with a smile. Not the full integration I underwent, but enough to improve their reflexes and spatial awareness. President Harrison's voice echoed through the station's comm system as he addressed the galaxy. Today marks not just the end of a war, but the beginning of a new era. The human Keth-Mori alliance stands ready to defend any world, any species, against those who would choose conquest over cooperation. Reed felt a deep satisfaction as he listened to those words. 10 years ago, he had been captured while trying to gather intelligence on humanity's enemies. Now he stood as living proof that sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy was to turn them into family. The Zephyrians would rebuild, would likely try to threaten the galaxy again someday. But they would face a united front, human determination backed by Keth-Mori wisdom, two species that had learned to trust each other completely. As the sun set on this new age of cooperation, Reed looked up at the stars and smiled. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of possibilities for those brave enough to extend their hand to someone different from themselves. The story of Marcus Reed, the human POW who returned with an alien army, had become the foundation myth of the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever known. And this was only the beginning.